Hi everybody, Radical Gardener. So here's part 2. Now maybe we get to have the bird in the background. Okay. Masks are stupid. Take them off. Part 2. All right, so, there's something else I want to say about them. They're creating a rift between the people that wear them and the people that don't. You see how those people look at us when we don't have a mask on, and how we look at them thinking, wow, are they an idiot? They're looking at us thinking, wow, they're irresponsible. They don't care about others. Whatever. So this is so orchestrated, right? This is so orchestrated. I went to pick up a couple of Cuban sandwiches. This is a cool place on the beachfront today called what is it called? Big Belly Beach Belly Bob or something. It's just this great little place. Great Cuban sandwiches. It's a really great beach food, and it's a very cool place. And so, I could hear him on the phone. He just got on the phone and he was saying, yeah, and it looks like the numbers are spiking coronavirus, and, so there was a woman standing there. Nobody in the place had a mask on. And it's a really small place, but there was a woman waiting to order. And then there was a young gal behind the counter. And then there's the guy who owns the place, I guess, Belly Bob. And I he came around the corner and I said, you do know that they did a COVID test on a piece of fruit, a goat, and a sheep, and they all came back positive. And the woman standing over the aisle, I could tell she was from our side of the aisle, and she goes, oh, I didn't hear that. I said, yeah, and she goes, where was that? And I said, well, I believe it was the president of Tanzania, wasn't it? Tanzania that did that? And it was pawpaw. The fruit was pawpaw. And then I said, and you also know, I said, I know people personally that they've been tested 3 times, and each time they got a different reading. The tests are crap. They're crap, right? So how do you know there's a spike? It's just crap. And if everybody's exposed to this flu-like virus, which has been around since October, and now we know that that's pretty much true, and that most of us had it, and which I've discussed before. I know we had it in, I think it was December. Man, we were sick. We got better, but we were sick. And Joe, some of the guys where he worked, they were sick for months. It was not your typical flu. So this thing's been, kicking around for a long time. That woman was great. She goes, oh, I didn't hear that. She was like, really? And I could sit with somebody for an hour and go, I mean, there's so much to just pulverize any of the scare tactics that are being put out there, or the fear mongering about it's spreading again. Oh my God. Okay, here's another article. So we're going to get back to the mask. The Coronavirus and Project Fear 3.0. And this comes from WSJ.com. I'm just trying to give you more of who this article comes from. Take part in the short survey. Okay, whatever. Okay, so from the Opinion Political Economics, the Coronavirus and Project Fear 3.0. Project Fear is back, alas, and it threatens to ruin our post-coronavirus politics for years. That was the name for the strategy Prime Minister David Cameron deployed in his campaign against Brexit during the 2016 referendum on European Union membership. The point was to scare the bejesus out of moderate voters who might otherwise be tempted to take a chance on leaving the bloc. Remain advocates, like the word remain, like stay, don't go, produced a steady flow of economic analyses warning of dire consequences if the electorate voted for Brexit. The economy would contract and unemployment would spike. Worse, Brexit would diminish Britain's standing in the world. It would signal a form of spiritual and moral decay. In this way, Project Fear tried to transform the question of Europe from a policy debate into a moral crusade. Americans have suffered through their own version of this phenomenon in the Trump era. It has never been enough to argue that most of his policy ideas are bad. Like, that's not working, right? Much of the media and his opponents on both the left and right represent him as a mortal threat to the republic. Whether they're ascribing to Mr. Trump authoritarian tendencies or accusing him of collusion with Russia, it's all about stoking fear. He's the least authoritarian type president we've ever had. Did he issue the lockdown? No. He just said, let's close the borders, and he had his eye on China and people coming in from Mexico where there seemed to be a lot of disease, and they're coming up from some third world countries where they're not all that healthy. And so he did that, but he left it up to the governors. Unlike Obama, may I just say, can we say Obamacare? Nobody had any choice on that one, did they? No, they did not. The only people that made money on that were the what? Yes, that was the insurance companies. Okay, sure enough, here comes Project Fear 3.0. This column has previously observed that policymakers are letting themselves be guided less by the science, which remains preliminary and conflicting, than by a perceived public clamor for a draconian response to the pandemic. The important word is perceived, since whatever outcry exists has been filtered through a media eager to hype the fear factor. The longer this crisis drags on, the less natural that fear seems. It's just natural to wear a mask, isn't it? Well, just put on your mask and go to the grocery store. Maybe you can just wear that mask for the rest of your life, right? It's just normal. Even though it doesn't work, you're an idiot. That's what I'm saying. If you're watching this, you wear a mask, you're an idiot. Turn off my channel. We now know the virus is not nearly as deadly as early data from China suggested. As deadly? Nowhere near. Doctors are developing more effective treatment protocols, and some drugs have shown early promise. Yeah, like the inexpensive ones, which they don't want to use. Deepening research into which traits make people more vulnerable to the disease allows for more finely honed shielding measures. All of that should trigger a modulation of the fear surrounding the coronavirus. Not a denial of the severity of the disease, but an understanding that new insights bring the prospect of new ways to balance risk while reopening stalled economies. That modulation isn't happening among the media or many political officials and even some members of the public because Project Fear is too appealing as a means by which to attempt to control public behavior and as a method for virtue signaling. Now remember, people like to be afraid. They're hooked on it. It's an adrenaline rush. They don't know it, but they're hooked, right? And I'm going to tell you, you'll find it a lot in religious groups. It's the end of days. It's the end of days. It's like, well, it might be the end of things as we have been experiencing them. It may be a brand new kind of world. I tend to believe that it's going to be a bigger, brighter, more beautiful world. That's why I believe that I'm even here for this round. But people are addicted to it, man. It is an adrenaline rush. That's why scary movies do so well. That's why pandemic movies do so well. That's why big bug movies do so well. People like to be afraid. They love it. You have to ask yourself why. And we've talked about that a little bit. And one of the reasons is because it's our way into, what's a word? Well, it's our way into breaking free from it. So we have to move through this part to actually get free of it. So you have to fully experience it to realize you don't really need it anymore, right? It doesn't serve you at all, right? So it's a shift. It's moving through something and moving towards a shift. All right. In the simplest sense, scare tactics make it easier for policymakers to secure public compliance with draconian lockdowns, even as the rationale for those policies becomes harder to discern. But this type of fear-mongering is tickling the mental pleasure centers of its grassroots participants, too. We all know people on social media who enjoy decrying lockdown violators and protesters as COVIDiots. Project Fear works by appealing to believers, sense that they are smarter than their peers, better able to read the tea leaves to see the impending disaster, and also better able to protect society from its more benighted members. And don't discount the joy and the sense of moral superiority. Oh no, academics love that. When one's position allows one to value lives, when one's opponents care only about the economy. This dynamic, and I'm going to tell you something, the people that say, no, we should keep lockdown, they all have checks coming in. They're not all hurting. They're not hurting financially, right? They're not. This dynamic presents a serious but surprising problem as we inevitably emerge from our lockdowns in coming weeks. Superficially, one might worry that heightened fear will suppress the economic activity necessary for a recovery as people refuse to leave their homes despite a government all clear, perhaps. But fear-based politics has grown less effective in recent years, and that is true. Those false flags don't work anymore. That's why this thing happened. False flags don't work. Right? We go, oh, really? Really? You know, and the Anons or the researchers or whoever, we are so good at spotting all the inconsistencies in that crap now that it just doesn't work, you know. I mean, Las Vegas was a case in point. I mean, and everything since then. I mean, it's just, we bust them every time. Okay, so less effective in recent years, especially if the world didn't end when voters first rebuffed those efforts in 2016 by choosing Brexit and Donald Trump. It seems unlikely that measures so unnatural as the proposed social distancing standards will embed themselves if, fingers crossed, early moves to ease lockdowns don't lead to a viral apocalypse. Instead, the problem is that iterations of Project Fear tend not to fail decisively, even when they lose potency. Rather than responding to contrary evidence, the fear continues to burn within the minority who found it most persuasive. Eventually, it engulfs politics and everything else, religion, everything else. A survey in 2019, now we know surveys that they're always crap, but I'll read it anyway, found that with the passage of time, 2016's Remain voters had grown only more convinced that Brexit would be bad for jobs, would leave the economy worse off, and would put Britain more at risk of a terrorist attack. A separate YouGov poll in January found Remainers making their peace with the referendum, but only slowly. 38% of them said they were still angry over, in denial about, or determined to overturn the Brexit vote. Is it any wonder UK politics has become unhinged? The losing side of the referendum is only very slowly admitting that what it lost is a policy debate rather than an existential struggle. In the US, this is the origin of Trump derangement syndrome. COVID-19, a disease that threatens the lives of vulnerable people, has an existential dimension Brexit and the Trump campaign lacked. But the danger of a similar outcome looms. Once fear infects politics, it tends to linger. Take off your mask. Please share this. We are not protesting social distancing. We are protesting government overreach and an unnecessary burden on our economy. We are protesting dads getting handcuffed for playing at parks with their kids. We are protesting lone fishermen being ticketed for providing food for their families simply because their boat has a motor. Michigan. We are protesting the suspension of FOIA and the silencing of civilian voices in our democratic process. We are protesting the unnecessary closure that is crippling businesses in our state, in all of our states. Don't get it twisted. We are protesting tyranny, not caution. Caution is advisable, but we can do that with businesses open. We're all doing it now. At gas stations, at grocery stores, anywhere we go in public. Those who want to protect themselves are wearing gloves, masks, sanitizing, and disinfecting. Will somebody tell me a hairdresser? Is there anything more sterile than a freaking hairdresser? I mean, you could do surgery in those places. I mean, given the amount of bleach that's used, Jesus. Those who want to protect themselves can wear masks and gloves and sanitize and disinfect to their heart's content. And they can just be so susceptible to bugs. Just listen to their heart's content. Clean, clean, clean. But nobody, not even the government, has the right to tell someone else what they have to wear, where they can and can't go, what they can and can't buy. We never agreed to be governed in this manner, and those of us protesting do not intend to start now. I found a piece of paper that reminded me that we were given the right to move freely in this country. The paper's a little old. It's from 1776. Fear is never an acceptable excuse for violating the rights of people from Colorado and Americans as a whole, or from anywhere else. From Michigan, from California, from Pennsylvania, from Virginia, from New Mexico. Fear is never an acceptable excuse for violating the rights of the people. Does closing some businesses magically make people stay 6 feet apart at the stores that are still open? Does someone not wearing a mask or gloves magically nullify your mask or gloves? That's totally not how it works. Does someone in their car risk contaminating you in your car? Subjugating our fellow citizens does not actually make anyone safer. It just makes people feel safer. People are losing their rights, their businesses, their livelihood, their ability to put food on the table and keep the lights on so others can feel safer. And they'll never feel safe because they're so inundated with fear. It's not about a feeling. It is about truth. You are not safer with all of this. You are believing a lie. Choose your rights as an American and stand for them with common sense before they are gone. I got this from a friend on Facebook. This is exactly why medical freedom is so crucial and should be added as an amendment to the Bill of Rights. For some odd psychological reason, it is usually the people who believe that they are so much smarter than everyone else that they are entitled to try to play God and force their ideas about health on others, advocating for policies like staying home and forced medical procedures for the greater good, who are the most ignorant of all. This is why I am so against the idea of public health and the idiotic, illogical, collectivist concept of community immunity. I mean, come on. Health is individual, and bodily autonomy is a basic human right. It isn't my fault if someone else eats at McDonald's every day and is obese and can't understand why their immune system doesn't work efficiently. Health was never a group thing in reality, and it isn't luck or genetics. People can be idiots, and the majority is not always correct. Usually the smug majority is wrong. I think, was it Pythagoras said that you should never, in politics, the majority shouldn't rule because the majority is usually wrong. Okay, let's see, where did I leave off? The smug majority is wrong. This exactly is why the Nuremberg codes were written. Groupthink, cognitive dissonance, and the Dunning-Kruger effect are all very, very real things. This is also why the Founding Fathers designed our government as a representative, constitutional republic rather than a democracy. The mob rule mentality is a bigger health danger than any virus ever could be. And that's that on that. Hopefully tomorrow there's no rain and we can do garden again. So, love to hear your opinions. It'll be over soon, you guys. It'll be over soon. But I'm going to tell you, somebody is going to come out, somebody that they have to believe. I don't know if it'll be, Dr. Ben Carson or the Surgeon General or, CDC, God knows, or whoever, or a group of them that are going to say, take the mask off, they're not healthy. That is going to happen. Something's going to happen where people are going to be told, knock it off. And then they can live with whatever they did and snitching on their neighbors and, just vile behavior, absolute vile. All right, so, but you know me, I know things are going to be terrific. I know they are. I think this time next year, it's a brand new world. I really do. There's going to be a lot of things that we're going to be really proud of that we've accomplished as a collective. So we just need to hang in there, right? Okay, so Radical Gardener, from my garden to yours, may your garden always grow. And I am sending you a ton of love. Take off your mask. Okay.